Look up from your telescope, take me on this journey home. I don't wanna wait no more.
All right, y'all. So I wasn't going to talk about this, but when I tell y'all, dozens of y'all have sent me this article, whether it's on Instagram or Twitter. Y'all been sliding in your good sister's DMs, and many of y'all have been very, very upset by this article. And I wasn't going to talk about it, but here we are. And I thought, you know what, Erica? It's important for you to talk about it. I have made quite a few videos surrounding Spelivia and really talking about things as much as I possibly can from all sides. So it would behoove me to also add this to the conversation, especially because it has elicited such visceral responses from a lot of you guys. So let's talk about our Spencer and Olivia as a couple toxic. Okay, so let me just be clear. The title of this video and the subject matter of this video is based on an article ran by Vice in the last week and a half. And this article was sent to me by quite a few of you all, where it really just kind of talks about Spelivia as a couple after season 3 mid-season finale, which is episode 8, right before we go on hiatus, because we see Spelivia finally get together. Olivia confesses her feelings for Spencer and they come together, and this article really just kind of like has the journalists explain their perspective, and they kind of dub Spelivia as a toxic couple. And when I first read the article, I was just like, okay, this is a lot. But when I went back to really break down the article for this video, I must say, y'all, there are some valid things being said in the article. So yeah, we gonna deep dive into it. But I do want to preface this with, on my channel, I talk about All American as a whole. I'm absolutely obsessed with the show. I love the showrunner. I love all the writers. I love all the creatives that are behind the show. I think that they're doing a fantastic, brilliant, amazing job. But I want to remind all y'all that this is not a Spelivia YouTube channel, right? This is not a Spelivia Stan account. I talk about all of the characters on All American. I talk about all of the storylines and what my perspective is on those things, or what I think on those things, on those people, in this case characters. So please miss me with the Erica doesn't like Olivia. Please miss me with Erica doesn't like Spelivia. Please just do not waste the time to get into the comment section and bash me or my opinions, or try to make it seem like I hate Olivia, because I don't. And honestly, y'all get on my nerves when you say it. So just don't even waste your time. I'm just telling you now, don't waste your time. Okay, so the article starts off naming historic toxic couples in television history, currently on the air as well as in the past. They start off with Chuck and Blair from Gossip Girl, which is one of the most amazing, toxic, and interesting couples that I have definitely been obsessed with. I used to be freaking overly obsessed with Gossip Girl. I felt like it was a really great series. So they named Chuck and Blair. They named Rue and Jules from Euphoria, as well as Zoe and Aaron from Grownish. And if you haven't already, we actually break down Grownish on this channel, and you can check out host Bailey, as she did episode recaps for every episode this season. You can check out the season finale recap, in which you actually get to see Zoe and Aaron and go a little bit deeper into that. So check that out after this video. But I must say, when they are putting Spencer and Olivia up next to these other characters and these other couples, it does make you think, y'all. Like, it really makes you think. In the article, it says, except the more the show develops, the more it looks like Spelivia has gone from having one of the purest friendships on the show to a relationship predicated on lies. I'm not gonna lie, I think that this is the hardest thing for me about Spencer and Olivia's relationship, because yes, they did start out interested in one another. Olivia was interested from the jump. Spencer was interested, and then kind of like fell back a little bit, and then got into the relationship with Layla. If you haven't already, I have done quite a few videos on that, so you can check out any of these videos that deep dive into Spencer and Layla's relationship, as well as some of the things that have occurred between Spencer and Olivia, because I definitely covered that in this channel. But the biggest thing that I'm struggling with in reference to Spelivia, and yes, Spelivia's endgame and all that, is that they had developed such a pure friendship. Like, it was one of the most refreshing things to see when you see Spencer show up for Olivia and you see Olivia show up for Spencer. And it's from a place of not necessarily like purely romantic energy. It felt very much so like friendship. It felt very much so like family. And the biggest thing that was like holding me back from being 100% all in with Spencer and Olivia coming together is that I really did like the idea of being able to see a male and female friendship on screen that did not have to go there. Like, they didn't have to be in love with one another just for them to show up for each other unconditionally, or just for them to see each other, or just for them to really, really be great support systems for one another. It kind of like brings up the question about, can men and women really be friends? And the fact that we're going down this road of Spelivia's endgame and them actually finally getting together, it kind of like squelches that conversation of like, yeah, well, a guy has to be romantically interested in a girl to be that deeply invested, and vice versa. And I hate that. Like, before, I felt like they were an example of men and women can really be friends and ride for each other. Yes, Olivia has always had these types of feelings, but she's been able to be very respectful of Spencer's previous relationships and respectful of their friendship as it was developing. So again, that's the one thing that I am mourning. I'm mourning the pureness of their friendship now that it's more complicated with this romantic relationship and all these romantic feelings. Then the writer Kristen Corey goes on to say, but if the show wants to stay in the conversation of impactful teen dramas, the writers have to address that Spelivia isn't just a harmless will they, won't they relationship. Together, they're dysfunctional, and the fallout of finally committing to each other could have serious consequences. And Spencer, if you're reading this, it's not too late to run. So this is the thing about this article. Shout out to Kristen for actually penning, her thoughts or their thoughts. I'm not really sure of the pronouns preferred, but shout out to you for penning your thoughts. The article is definitely sensational in its wording. To like finish this paragraph off and say, and Spencer, if you're reading this, it's not too late to run. It's like, dang, that's extreme AF. But I get it. For me, it's Spencer's savior complex that he needs to really work through. He's always trying to save someone. And again, well, not again. Well, actually, no, I have mentioned this in a video before. Another issue that I had with the idea of Spencer and Olivia getting together right now is that they're both in still very broken places, and I just didn't want Spencer to be in a relationship where he had to save the other person, because that's what he had to do. Like, that's his norm, and I want him to be in a situation where he can just be and not have to be something for somebody else, not have to show up and save and overly support and overcompensate and do all these things. And I feel like that's kind of like where the writer of this article is going with this. It's just that the way that they put these words together, it sounds super, super, super dramatic, which I guess is also part of it. Like, part of the journalistic process is writing in a way that makes people feel things, make people want to get engaged, and make people respond. So I can definitely understand how this article came about, how these particular string of words get strung together, and then also how you guys are responding in the way that you are to it. And honestly, I feel like the whole harmless will they won't they thing changed just in the last episode. I didn't really see the harm in the will they won't they back and forth until Olivia's drinking came into play, and then until Olivia asked Spencer to switch spaces with her in this potentially volatile situation that we are approaching with the police officers. Now it's like, okay, girl, you're really compromising his life. And the writer does a really great job. The writer of the article does a really great job of talking about this, because she later goes on to say, in the same breath that Olivia confesses her love to Spencer, who was unaware that she was no longer sober, she asks for the ultimate sacrifice. Asking to switch seats isn't a small favor. Olivia actively decides that getting a DUI would be worse than Spencer taking the fall for her, when it is known that since 2015, 24% of unarmed black people were killed during traffic stops. Yeah, this is the moment where the relationship gets much more serious, and the fact that they're going into this relationship and Spencer's unconditional, undying, unrelenting love for Olivia not becomes a problem, but honestly, for lack of a better word, kind of becomes a problem, because all of those things are what's going to allow him to be manipulated in this situation to actually do something that could potentially put his life in danger. And I don't even think that, because honestly it was outside of their control. So the shooting, right? The shooting was a trauma that they both experienced, but it was outside of their control. So I don't necessarily even look at that as anything toxic. I definitely think that they had some trauma bonding around that experience. But this is something that is well within their control. Olivia crashed his car. Olivia chose to drink and drive. And Olivia is choosing in this moment to ask Spencer to take the fall for her. So this is a real big problem. And I actually did a video on that too. If you missed it, I go into my ideology behind why the car crash is a very big problem. And you should definitely watch that video. I'm very proud of that video. The Vice writer goes on to say, Spencer is always sacrificing some part of himself to be part of the Bakers' world while their lives remain unchanged. Last season, we watched Olivia find her voice as a woke podcaster, and this week's episode dismantles that persona. Putting Spencer in harm's way not only could jeopardize his chance to continue playing under the constraints of the new strict principle, but also his life. And honestly, I believe that this was very eloquently written. And I didn't even think about it like this until I read it. But yeah, Spencer is constantly sacrificing to be a part of Beverly Hills world, to be a part of the Bakers world. And their life does go on unchanged. Like, for the most part, there's not a ton of learning or evolution that's happening on the Bakers side of things. Jordan countlessly gets saved by the bell, gets rescued from situations, and comes out unscathed. Billy is able to navigate a bunch of poor choices, and aside from some emotional turmoil within his relationship with Laura, comes out unscathed. Olivia, OD, went to rehab, came back, and yes, she's struggling with some emotional things, but she was able to, and this is with her words in season 2, still be able to navigate inside of her Beverly Hills bubble and still live a life that is very different than, majority of black folks in America. And even in this moment, with her making the decision to ask Spencer to switch spaces with her driving drunk, she's relying a little bit on the privilege that she has been given by birth and to the circumstances that she has, and has not shown a lot of change. I do believe that Olivia is evolving as a character, but like the writer said, in this episode, it really dismantles all of the evolution that we saw from her in season 2 in this one decision, because she literally reverts back to what she knew and who she was versus standing in who she should be today based on the experiences that she has had in the last year and a half. I think the way that the writer chose to end the article was very interesting as well, so I'm going to read that as my final portion of the actual article that I want to share and highlight. And they said, The CW has become a network filled with superheroes with flagship series like Black Lightning and Batwoman, and it's no surprise that Spencer fashions himself as a crusader too, wanting to help everyone around him. But it's time that he realizes that he's already taken a bullet for Olivia once, and he isn't immortal. And y'all, I think that this is one of the realest statements of the entire article, just to be quite honest with you. Spencer is not immortal and he cannot save everyone, especially if he can't even seem to save himself in various situations. And this statement in and of itself really helped me to really think a little bit further into the Spelivia relationship and what they are actually being set up for, because it's not like they're being set up for success. They're starting their relationship off, one, with a lie to everyone else, because I'm pretty sure Olivia wants him not to say anything about her drinking. She wants him to switch spaces so that she doesn't get a DUI and he gets to take some of the blame, and she would get less of the smoke or tension that will come around her making some very, very terrible decisions. So the whole relationship is starting off on very, very rocky ground. So I can get where the writer is coming from when they are dubbing this relationship as toxic. But with that said, with me acknowledging the validity in the writer's perspective and tone and how they actually came to this conclusion, I personally am not going to dub the Spelivia relationship as toxic just yet. I don't think that this one episode proves their relationship, their interactions, their friendship to be a toxic one. I do think that it sets them up to be in a very problematic situation. And again, please watch the car crash is a very big problem video so that you can really get the gist of why I feel like what happened with the car crash and Olivia's subsequent decisions are very problematic. I can't necessarily say that I think that Spencer and Olivia's relationship as a couple is toxic. I think that that is a very far reach for where we are right now. Now, if we get to the end of season 3 and they done gone through a whole bunch of, some BS, just some craziness, ridiculous drama, which we are going to see some drama because this is a teen drama, y'all. Like, let's be real. Then maybe we can revisit the conversation of the fact that Spencer and Olivia may be toxic as a couple. But as of right now, after episode 8, I don't necessarily believe that they are a toxic couple. There has been quite a few other toxic couples on this show. I think that Asher with anybody has been a toxic couple. I think that Asher and Vanessa are in the makings of being a toxic couple. Yeah, I don't think that Spencer and Olivia are a toxic couple yet. But now it's your turn. Tell me what you think in the comment section down below. I'm actually going to link to the Vice article if you have not read it already. I think that is definitely a worthwhile read, but only read it if you have an open mind and if you're open to constructive, healthy conversation and debate. If you are just an obsessed stan who cannot see any wrong on Olivia's part, cannot see any wrong on Spencer's part, and just aren't honest with yourself or the people around you or the so-called people that you love, then don't even waste your time going to read the article. I don't even know why you watch this video if you're that way, because there's quite a few of y'all who are out here on these internet streets and can't be honest with yourselves, can't be honest with anyone else, and just want to stand people down regardless of how problematic their decisions are. And I honestly just think that this isn't for you. But if you're a really big fan of the show and you want to have a healthy dialogue around potential decisions and setups and all that kind of stuff, I definitely think the article is a worthwhile read. While I disagree with the characterization of this relationship, I again think it's a worthwhile read, so I'll put the link in the description box for you to check it out. And you know how we do. Jump into the comment section down below and tell me, do you think that Spencer and Olivia as a couple are toxic? Do you think that they should actually be together right now? Also, do you think that they are going to stay together? I want to know all of that and more. So go ahead and let me know. Sound off right now. If you're new here, I'm Erica Bain, and I post new All American videos every day, sometimes twice a day. And you should join the tribe by hitting subscribe. I promise that you're gonna love it here. We have some of the most amazing dialogues around this amazing series, and I would definitely want you to join. I'm so glad that you're here. I'm glad that you made it to the end of this video. If you missed any of my other All American videos, you can check it out in my All About All American playlist right here, or catch up on other series that I think you're going to love as well, such as Grownish or Snowfall right here. Thank you again for watching. I love you so much. See you tomorrow. Bye.